time is moving, and a lot of clinicians and practitioners have been seeing on the ground that we have got this kind of culture shift happening before our very eyes. You will have had lived experience of mums who have talked to you about their partner's needs, their own mental health, that dads also are impacting them as a new mum in terms of how they're not able to cope, or they're not ready, or they carry on doing the same things that they shouldn't be doing. And I can't talk to them about it because it's like talking to a brick wall, because they've just carried on doing, because they haven't really had the information brought to their attention in a way that kind of, and I'm going to throw belief out there, forewarned is forearmed. So just having information, you don't know what you don't know. So if we can give them information and start monitoring these men and partners to allow them to have a space, a place to have a voice, a space to talk to. And of course, you, as the experts on the ground, have those ears to listen. And you'll also be keen, for the sake of mum and baby, to make sure those dads and partners are properly looked after too. Because eventually, the world through that baby's eyes are mum, dad, or partner, or whoever is up and above them. And what we need to ensure is that family unit, as it grows, is nurtured from within the family as well as from outside of the family. I hope that starts to make some sense. It's kind of my opening gambit, starter for 10, if you ever watched University Challenge when you were younger, or you heard of it. So I'm going to try and, can I share my screen a minute?
Yeah, please do, Julian. I started recording that midway through, so I'll just put a note in the chat there. If anybody has any objections to being recorded, then if you could just turn your camera off, that'd be great. And I'll just monitor the chat, Julian.
Okay.
And should we save the questions for at the end?
Absolutely. I mean, if there's anything burning, or if I put my foot in my mouth and I see a face of horror, of shock, then please say something, because I will do that frequently, and people do. But I'm hopefully nothing too contentious. I'm just trying to check that I can share my screen.
Good.
And let me know when you can see. It should be a PowerPoint presentation that I can start.
Yeah, we're on PowerPoint.
Excellent. Let me just see, and hopefully you can see me as well in the bottom right hand corner, or there kind of thing. From beginning. Right, so here we go. So Dadpad came about 2012, 2013. I'd finished my psychology degree. I'd moved, I was in Cornwall. I'd working at the hospital taking blood. I was also, then I went into probation service for 14 years. So I was working with men all the way through that time, mostly in a group room, mostly learning how men cognitively change, because that was my kind of experience. And obviously I worked quite extensively on the domestic violence program, the anger management program, thinking skills program, at problem solving, mostly with these men who all come with these beliefs, and what we try to do is move them on and move them forward. And so that was my expertise, of kind of engaging with the men. And then I became a father in 2006, 5, 6, end of 5, beginning of 6. And then Freddie came home, and I'd already been looking around during the pregnancy to kind of see what was out there. And really, I couldn't find much that didn't kind of send me into a bit of a spin or a panic, because what was out there was there was a book, but it was aimed at parents together, or it was aimed just at mum. And I was looking and leafing through these things, and online presence wasn't as much back then. There was stuff there, but it was quite scary. So what I did was I sat on a local perinatal mental health board. As Freddie kind of grew up, I put my hand up for a project to kind of work with new men that they were working with. And I'd worked in children's centres where they were coming through the door, and the children's centre workers were saying, "Oh, mum's come in and said the dad's a bit of a problem. Can you do some work with them? How to support the baby, how to look after the baby, how to look after themselves, how to be less angry." Lots of things were going on, but they were kind of handing me these men a bit late. So I was having to bring my kind of probation work hat on, plus all my, it was Webster Stratton stuff at the time about play and praise and all the other things I was trying to put together in a kind of program for new dads. And I ran that for a few years back in 2013, 14, 15, whilst I finished off my probation career. And at the same time, we put together, as I sat on a local perinatal board, the Dadpad, a set of cards that the health professionals could use as they go out to see the new families and the new dads, to get eyes on the dad, to talk to the dad, to engage with the dad, and see where they can upskill him in certain things and tasks and get him a lot more involved. And what they were finding is these dads were stepping forward as soon as they realized they had the permission to get involved, because part of the culture issue is that a lot of the dads don't like to, for one reason or another, access the space for what they, for some reason, thinks it's treading on mum's toes, or they're worried about this and that. And there's lots of worries going on, because when you do find out you're a dad, when you do see that little line in the window, or you GP tells you you're going to be a father, you do get excited. Yes, for a few days you're elated, and then you start to think about, where are we now? Where are we going? And it can get quite overwhelming. So I was wanted to say, I wanted to ask a question then. Oh no. So you can get a bit overwhelmed, and what we were trying to do is give them some kind of information that they could flick through during the pregnancy, start to get to understand their role, start to get to understand what happens when the door is shut and no one else is there, and when their health visitor calls, or they've spoken to their midwife during the pregnancy, they can ask questions. They can start to feel more confident talking to the professionals who have got all the information, some information trapped in their heads, that will really ease things along for them. So it's about engaging a whole set of people who've not really been that engaged in it before, and that's what the evidence over the 20 plus years now, because this was written a couple of years ago, this slide, but it's based on the evidence where 0 to 2 is this golden opportunity moment where they will have a chance, men will have this window where they're more motivated to change their behavior, because this life-changing event is just triggering that need to look ahead and step up to be who they're going to be, which is going to be a new father. But often we find that men fall short at this time because they don't have the information, they don't have the backup in terms of history, in terms of how they were taught. And this is where you, as the health professionals, will step in and be their kind of walk alongside friends, and someone who can just tell them they're doing okay, or ask them how they are, ask again, because that's part of the the movement in perinatal mental health, is to make sure you're asking these men. There's lots of research going on about linking the potential suicide in terms of new fathers. So we have to be aware there is a definite increase in risk. So it's a life-triggering event. And our goal, if we want to build these strong, think family models, is to build these resilient families by empowering them to support each other as soon as possible. Now, with the Dadpad, which I'll wave at you later and go through, I can show you a few inside slides if you hadn't seen one. They're on the way. Nadine tells me that they're on the way to your teams, and you will have these ready for launch at the end of, I think it's 27th. I think it's 27th. Nadine will nod and tell me, and what we'll make sure that you've got these guides to go out with to start that kind of engagement process, or talking to them about certain topics, gauging who they are. Because it's not only an engagement tool, it's a bit of an assessment tool. If you can see that dad is struggling, or in fact doesn't see him playing much of an active part, that the stress is going to lie firmly on mum. And so how is her internal and external locus of control around things? So you can start to see and make that accurate assessment, and you can put in some notes. You can put in whether it's is it Badgernet, or whether it's some other case notes place where you can put some kind of note to say, I've seen this family, this is what's going on, and someone can pick up the baton later on. All helps to build a picture before it hits a crisis point later, if we can get some help in earlier. And this is what we're saying. So we assert that if you give something to a dad to get the practical skills, so they can include and engage the dads, their confidence increases. It's a time for support, so you can actually upskill them. You can sit alongside, flick through a couple of pages, give them the app, which is one of the main aspects of this. You've got an app for each of your areas that mirrors some of the information, plus more, plus all your local services, so you can signpost them at each point to something local or even national if it hasn't been invented locally yet. Because there is a national picture to be thought of here. There isn't the fathers groups everywhere. There isn't the support nationally to have peer support workers for every new dad that comes through the door. which may be something that will come to light for dads and partners. Just as much as mums have groups or individual support, dads may need to have that too. And part of Dadpad is about planting the flag to say this is where we need to go, really, if we want to make sure that baby is as cradle safe as possible. So if in terms of gaining confidence and understanding the new role, he has that support opportunity. And dads start to become more included, more involved, start to think ahead, start to work as a team, because mum's been giving information too. They can start talking more. This is what we need to do. Give them that language to be able to talk with mum. So that things at every single stage. We need to be able to support parents in building that relationship. And I can give you a nod later into what's coming in terms of there's a mum resource that we're putting together about building the kind of conversational relationships with dad, and we'll echo it in the Dadpad too. So as we come round here, dad becomes an active and engaged co-parent, or more active, more engaged. He also, if we're running up to the birth at this point, he starts to be able to be much more of an ally and an asset to his partner. I remember standing outside at 10 o'clock at night after Freddie was born at 6:41 at the end of the Simpsons music, and I had to leave at 10. And so Hannah had a difficult night, and had I been there, I would have been able to advocate or help at that point. If I'd had my guide there, there's lots of things I could have done that I wouldn't necessarily or normally thought I could do, but which actually could relieve some pressure on staff. But it could also mean we're asking the right questions at the right time to get the right help at the right moment. And that's where you're going to see parents start to feel that they have that kind of permission to talk and ask questions about what's going on for them and get the right answers. And it could save a lot of worry. It could save kind of a dissension into any kind of illness or issue. Particularly if a mum has postnatal depression, which dads can have too. They just experience it differently, and it starts and finishes at a different point. And the finish depends on what help the dad will get later on, and there's not much of that about. But actually, for mums, dads and partners are really an asset to their recovery. So working with some of the perinatal mental health teams, they can be part of that plan quite early on. And in fact, if you're pushing these dads into a space where A, they've never really understood maternity systems before, B, they don't really know how much or how little they can be involved, and they're not confident to do that, suddenly they have a partner who's ill, and suddenly they're being asked to step up and do something quite remarkable with part of a health recovery plan. It can be really overwhelming for them, and it's a wonder why a lot of the men do the whole stiff upper lip thing and keep their kind of I'm going to be strong going. And then as mum starts to recover, dad starts to go off a cliff. That's kind of a pattern that does follow. But at that point, you've got someone who could be crumbling and can't be that help to dad. So we need to get them a language. We need to get them to understand that there are things like perinatal mental health going on. And there's things in the Dadpad and accompanying resources that can help them spot signs, symptoms, and you can put in your local services where to go and get help, like your perinatal mental health team, which you have got, and you're forging lots of links with. And I don't know if we've got some perinatal mental health team people here today. So then we're looking at dad having more of an opportunity to become that caring and more attached and responsive parent to his child. Have two children that's going through, have been through, and both of them are just my daughter's just gone into secondary school as well now, but I'm a nursery school governor. But looking at all the transitions that modern life asks our new parents to be involved in, are we really just going to heap all that to mum to organise? Because there is so much it demands of parents in terms of all the transitions from the very first foundations in the early years. We need to be getting both parents to be as supportive of each other and supportive of that child as possible, if there are two parents there. So we want to make sure that's happening. So whizzing through, if you look at all the kind of social media that's been going on, if you're a Twitterer, then at Dadpad UK, we'll chart some of the journey that we're going on with all the things that are happening. We've got links with a lot of the main proponents of mental health for new dads and just dad issues around perinatal period. Such as Mark Williams and Kieran Anders of Dad Matters and Scott Mayer, who you've got in your area, and we can talk. Hopefully Scott is in the room actually. And Scott will be helping, hopefully, to be a bit of a Dadpad connector for us in your area. He said he's able to just make sure that where the Dadpad needs to be advertised and signposted to, he can just check with you that you've got all you need from us, and can just be a bit of a liaison with Nadine and me to help. And I understand he's got some kind of group work or one-to-one work that he can offer at certain points when he's able, that might be part of your offer. So we're trying to build that kind of national picture. There's a conference coming up in a week or so, and that's Let's Talk Dads, and that's going to have Dr. Anna Makin, who talks about the whole science of new fatherhood. It's got Kieran talking about their model of peer support, which is very important. And you've got to get those kinds of that kind of understanding to know that where it starts is with the engagement. It starts with you and your teams to engage with those men, because we need to get them to a point where they're able to be openly active to seeking help, asking for help, and taking part in anything that needs to be done, that relieves that pressure and stress for them both as a couple and that baby as a new family. So it's bums on seats that are really important, but you need to have engagement, and that's where whatever we've been trying in the past, even the latest report on conflict relationships programs, what they were saying is it's really hard. It's the engagement of the dads, as ever was. And this is where we're coming in. This is what you need to be having. It's the conversation between the Dadpad stuff and you and those families that's going to start to get you a better picture and a better connection with those families. The video, hopefully you've been put, the explainer video has been put into the link for you for the MS Teams. I think I saw it there. So if you had a chance or you haven't had a chance, you can have a look at that. It just from kind of field to plate explains exactly what the Dadpad did. It kind of paints a picture about if we show these men and these dads what they can be getting involved in really early, then later on, the kinds of things that are going to happen, some of the milestones they might see, and the relationship that they can develop with their family if those things are done, and the reasons why. And it's just a short explainer. So here we go. Keeps flicking screens. But if we look here inside your Dadpad, we have worked with, it's co-produced, so even back in 2012-13 and ever since, we've been working with teams such as yours. There's a health visitor service, midwifery team service too, perinatal mental health teams, safeguarding boards, the mums, dads, families, even grandparents. We've been asking what other things that these new dads should have in their armory when that baby comes, just so that they can maximize the time, the golden time and the moments with those new families. And that's where we have got been putting in the effort. In fact, if I show you, in a second. I'll come back to show you the inside hopefully in a minute. So Dadpad is now in quite a few different areas in terms of that approach. So they've been given like a few thousand guides each. So each area from Cornwall all the way up in the southwest, the whole southwest, through Hampshire and bigger areas such well, Hampshire's quite a large area, and then into kind of London, Luton, Bedford, areas in South London, and with more inquiries coming on all the way up to Greater Manchester and Eastern Cheshire, and you guys coming down into the Midlands, about 20 plus areas now. 22 will have been launched by the end of the year, I think. And there we go. So they've all been given a set of the guides and the books to use to engage, and they've also been given an app. So the app contains a lot of the information you'll find inside these Dadpads. I'm just hoping this will open up for you. while this carries on working, has anyone got any questions so far, just so that I can make a note for the end to cover something that I might miss?
I know, Julian, that Scott was having difficulty getting in.
Okay.
But he's on the way.
That's okay. I spoke to Scott the day before yesterday. So there we go. So just
I'm here now.
Oh, you're
I
here now.
heard the 27th. Is that September the 27th that you hope to launch this? Or October? September. Thank you.
September. Yes.
September, Erin.
Sorry, Nadine, I didn't hear you.
Just September the 27th, that's Monday. September the 27th is our go live date. That will be the date where all of our parents can access the Dadpad app. So from today until then, it won't be live, but on the 27th, it will be.
Okay, so I'm just giving you a quick peek inside some of the pads that you're going to get. It covers quite a few different issues, as you can see there. Dad's role in breastfeeding, felt it was very important. We've worked hard with a lot of infant feeding coordinators and teams across the UK to make sure the information is correct, make sure it's up to date, always willing to tweak. So as part of the app process and the way we kind of come back to you, we do report on your statistics for your app, and I'm going to I'll come back to that. So that's the Dadpad. You've got the quick read Dadpad, which is more illustrative, and it has a lot of the kind of prompts and all the basics. So it makes sure that you've got things that dads know that they should be doing, things to avoid, teaching about cries there, safe sleeping, all in line with the initiatives, the safe sleeping initiatives, all in line with the icon and crying stuff that we've been working with Suzanne Smith on. And it's just to make sure that they've got as much up to date. Public health team have also been involved to make sure we've got dads continuing to talk to, that they're taking a break and coming back to the baby should they feel it's too difficult to cope with, for example, crying. So, and we link them to the resources that are kind of trusted on a national basis, all in the name of still kind of this kind of reaching out idea, and how important it is to look after the mental health of new fathers as well. I'm just going to try and get back to my presentation. Right, there's a sneak inside. We work with the icon, we work with other areas, and we are clear that we will work with you if you have new sections of either the Dadpad app or the Dadpad that you would like to work with us to develop. So some areas such as Hampshire are looking at certain things, Kent are looking at other issues around the day of the birth and place of birth, to make sure that we've got those in and added to as well, and a lot of mental health work's going on. So to the app. So really, one of the main events is that this app will go live on the 27th of September. Nadine, her team and colleagues from across the areas have been pulling together some of the information to make sure in the local service section you've got everything that you want dads when they leave that hospital, that they don't have to keep looking out and around and everywhere and getting lost in different websites. Even if you've got a really good main website, we can link them to that, because if this is their go-to place, because it's a specific resource for dads, and that's what the evidence shows, is if you need to target a population dependent on how they identify themselves, so that it's really specific, and that's what we've had to be with dads and looking at dads. And you can access it by you'll forward them to a link. They can download it from their Play Store, the Google Play Store or the Apple Store for their device, and just it will go to Dadpad, download it, put their postcode in, and then up will pop Warwickshire, Coventry or Solihull, and they obviously pick the one that they want to look at. And should they be doing any cross-border travel, they can obviously look at the next one along if they're in that location to see if there's anything different. Nadine's been working and her team have been working with Hannah, who's behind me, who will be able to take and on hand any kind of questions or queries through Nadine to answer anything about areas or information.
Julian, we had a question there, which I think is quite pertinent. The question is from Alicia Phillips. She said she just wondered whether we tweaked any of the materials specific for dads' needs or any feedback from different groups. So like teen dads, younger dads, parents with learning needs, dads in same-sex relationships.
Okay, so what was the name of the person? Sorry,
Alicia.
Alicia. So Alicia, yes. So the whole point of the co-production was that we're hearing a lot of the voices of this community throughout the years, and so when we came to do the quick read Dadpad, that was to help. It's been written to kind of help across a broad spectrum of dads. The essential guide, which is the other one that you'll have, is a little bit more in depth and less illustrative, more photos. So we've kind of made the quick read to make sure the basics are covered and can be understood, to make sure that they don't miss out on that experience. We have had independent feedback. We worked with the European College of Environment and Human Health, who had a program, and they gave some grant money to some organisations to independently go and kind of test Dadpad with various groups in a metropolis in Manchester and in a kind of local area which is kind of it's kind of a metropolis area and a kind of rural area, to make sure that they are not missing any voices. And they came back with a load of list of recommendations. So that's what we've been putting in to the Dadpads as they're going along. And obviously working with our MVP partners over the last couple of years, as they've been kind of invented over the last few years, we have and Patient Voice, we've been working with, we've actually got an employee who's an ex-chair who did a lot of training of the national rollout of MVP, and they're been working very hard with other MVP areas and all the other Dadpad areas to hear voices that are different from what we've aimed this pad at, which is dads in a mum-dad relationship normally, to give them that information. So what we've done now is also to give the voice to partners who don't identify as the dad demographic we're aiming at. We are, as you can see on this slide, we are developing what is a partner pad, which the name is to be discussed, but it does cover using all the appropriate pronouns, etc., and everything that they wanted as a community in a similar resource. So LGBT plus community have got their own dedicated pad on the way. It's 100% written. We're just jumbling it around with illustrations to make sure we're getting it right, testing it, and then getting it out. And we'll be sending those out to you for free as soon as it's finished, because we realized over the years that I've had to fight to get Dad's voice heard over the last 7 years. And what hasn't happened is, because it's a smaller number in total of in terms of that percentage who go and meet maternity services, who aren't mum and dad traditionally in that way, they haven't had the same voice. So they haven't had the same numbers to create enough to get that put into every kind of resource. So we've been working with them to develop this, and we'll carry on working and developing this and that platform. So every Dadpad area, which is 22, will suddenly be able to have the same resource that will that they can access, which is, we think, is quite a big win for seeing every partner and every baby that looks up has a partner who is covered, and we should keep on developing that. So hopefully that helps a little bit in understanding where we've come from. We have got articles for people to look at, and another part of our ongoing development is our websites. I think it's here actually. So if you do go to our website and you go to our blog page, for example, you will find that we have a lot of different articles written. This one here, for example. So all the kind of aspects that you can't cover in a few pages of text or on a small screen for, through your phone on a short time scale, we've kind of expanded, and we've been working with professionals, and we'll include hopefully working with yourselves across the 3 different areas, some of the different teams, to write a couple of blogs just to check you know, specialisms. And that's not opening, but you will see, there we go. So where we have talked about why Dadpad is called Dadpad, why we're having to engage dads specifically and not just saying parent pad, because the research and evidence shows that if you do that, then you will disengage the dad population, who will then feel that it's still a mum's domain, because they'll pass that resource over to mum because the language isn't so too specific. And that's evidence based. That's what the statistics show. So this is why we focused on this kind of section. So what we're trying to do to make sure the same is said for anyone who doesn't identify for the pad that we've already developed for dads, we're going to try and work our way to help those people who want to also access this good information. And it's not, and there is a differentiation. There is more about personalization. There's more about choice and consent. Not that that isn't important for the dads, but there is a need to work with what this community is telling us real time and what they want to have in a resource that is for them. So we will be putting in information, particularly about, you know, how they approach to kind of help build those relationships with maternity staff and teams through the perinatal period anyway. Right. I'm just going to head back to information. So make use of those, make use of the blogs and forward the dads to that as another resource that they can use and look at, and it's something we can add to that's live all the time. So back to where we were and what's next for Dadpad. We want to make sure that you have some updates to it. So we're working currently over the next few months on the languages, 10 new languages, some text to voice functionality, intelligent SMS service, and some community forums, which are going to be amazing for real-time live interactions with dads in your own areas, where you drop in some topics and some things you'd like them to discuss to give you feedback. It saves you having to scrabble around to find dads groups who can give you the feedback, and this will give you a live kind of running commentary on what's going on, and we can help manage those as part of what's happening. This is going to be a real bonus for all those areas when it comes on stream. We've also got an award-winning neonatal provision, and that will also be put onto the app. And also, I've talked about the partner pad. The birth mum pad that's coming on the way is about building that relationship with their partner and the dad around things that they want them to know as the pregnancy proceeds and into parenthood, and to make sure that the conversations are flowing both ways. Military provision, we're also working with different areas, the Tri-Corps, to make sure that they've got a forces fathers connection when they're going away, or they're on training, or they're just not there, to make sure that they can keep that connection going. Home birth Dadpad, we've written a home birth resource along with university in Bournemouth and all the specialist home birth team, although we're waiting to see where that's fitting in terms of provision, and obviously COVID's slowed a few things down, but we're going to make sure that the new app also has some good connection to kind of blog work and kind of community based, community forums based, so they can keep conversational stuff going and make sure that we've got a lot of ideas for what we can add in the future. So what's really important, I think we need to move back to talking to you about how you connect with the dads on the ground. And if I leave that, stop presenting. And sorry, I know I've been going on a bit, and hopefully it wasn't too boring for you, but I wanted to make sure that I've gone through every little aspect of what I've got to show you. And I know that Nadine has had, and maybe her other kind of co-leads in the projects across the two other areas have had a little brochure. Now, the brochure does talk about the different places and spaces that you could advertise and get your dads involved into kind of looking at the app or getting a pad. If you haven't got enough numbers to give them a pad and they want one, they can get one from our website. We can, it's free postage, but we can make sure that they've got access to that link for their phone and how you then talk to them about it. So ultimately, your scanning areas, your first appointments, either midwife appointment, health visitor appointment, if it's happening, pre-birth, post-birth, wherever you see them, it's always a good touch point to check in and catch any of those who haven't looked at it or have been thinking about it but haven't quite yet started, or the ones you can see are quite panicky about what's happening. You can start to say, well, this is something that kind of steady you, because it starts to give you that kind of drip information that allows you to start to just look at a page a week or a card a week during the pregnancy, just to kind of get your head in the space, and then it's there for you. Or have a look at certain web page and guide or animation on the app, just so that they have got something to kind of explore themselves and build confidence with. And Scott hopefully will go through a list with me of places and spaces once you've decided, and we can just check in with you, see if there's anything else we can be doing. We are part of Scott and I are part of something called the Paternal Mental Health Alliance that has come up with 10 ways to engage, 10 reasons to engage, and also 10 best practice tips on how to engage. So again, we could turn those into a few kind of leaflets or cards for you as health professionals just to have around, just so that you've got that kind of presence, that it normalizes that engaging dad should be happening and is happening. I know that you've been doing and trying to do that for years, and I know it makes sense, and I think that it's just a case of getting those extra kind of resources and getting that extra kind of time and space for you to just ask those crucial few-minute conversations just to check where the dads and partners are. We've got these stickers and business cards that are on the way. So where you are using handheld notes still, and you're seeing mum, but you're not going to see dad, and it doesn't matter that the message traditionally shouldn't be, oh, we want get your mums to go home and tell dad to download this. I'm just saying that if at that point a dad hasn't attended that scan or that appointment, there's no harm in having a sticker on there. So where that might happen more often, you might say, let's put the stickers in that space to put them in, because we're going to see mum, but we're not going to see dad. Other people who do see dad can then give him a business card with the download instructions on, or draw his attention to the poster, and then they can go away with that, and you've already started the conversation, and they've got that in their wallet. They know they can access it at any time, in any space, in wherever they are. And then here are obviously your lovely wipeable guides, and those are the ones that will be on the way to you. They can just take them, hang them up somewhere in the house. I think that all the new set that you'll be getting are actually all biro bound though, like this, so they're like books, so they'll just open up like books for you. Now, I'm going to stop talking, because I think there's probably going to be some questions, and that will help me pick out the things that I might have missed saying to you, if that's okay.
Thank you, Julian. There's lots of really lovely comments in the chat about how people are excited about Dadpad, and it seems to be a really good resource for dads, how we need to engage them, and I think people are kind of really on board with that idea about targeting our fathers, but making sure that they have a sense of belonging, and all of the things that you've already talked about. Congratulations to Richard, who's become a new father, and there's some other ladies in the chat who are saying that their partners are about to become fathers, and this might be a helpful resource. We had some comments about possibility of a mum pad. so that moms still have their own info?
Yeah, so I'll answer that one. So you might have seen on the one slide I was talking about, so things that are coming. So we're 100% there with the partner pad. We're also 100% there with the mum pad. Again, we're just jiggling it around to make sure it's right. Now, what we try to do is not encroach on a mum's kind of organisation's space, because there's so much out there for mums. But what we wanted to make it was a bit different in terms of, we asked this user group, loads of mums across those different MVP groups across the UK, along with any other organisation we're working with, to come up with the topics they thought were most important, that needed to be in there, that had to be essential, that was similar to what's in the Dadpad. So they've got things to discuss, but also anything else they felt that it was something that they wanted to learn about, but then talk to their partner, the dad about, or partner about. So with creating that mum pad too, as a kind of companion to the dad pad or partner pad, as a conversational relationship building kind of tool. We're engaged with Hampshire at the moment in looking at some kind of relationship pages for the app as well. There is obviously this reducing parental conflict project that's been ongoing for a couple of years. Findings have come out recently, and they're still trying to learn all the time. This is one of the most difficult spaces. So we want to make sure that this relationship can survive and thrive in often what is a very could be a chaos-inducing kind of life triggering event. And so it's a piece of the puzzle, isn't it? You use a Dadpad to empower that, just to know some stuff. You get them talking to a partner about what's going on. You start to submerge them in that kind of warm water, so that they do feel, because the service is starting to say, you know, we're all here for both parents here, you know, don't feel left out here, talk to us. And then the baby arrives, and we want to make sure the dad's got access to peers and people that they can talk to about becoming a new dad. That's where your community forums can come in. That's where your community support groups can come in. You know, people like Kieran at Dad Matters have got organisations that are starting to pick up kind of proper group work, and they do walks, they do all kinds of brilliant things with people, and they can do that in your locality. So, but in order to not get the same people to those groups and having initiatives that only last a very short space of time, I'm trying to make sure that everyone gets the Dadpad to start to engage as many men as possible, so you have much more of a pool to pull from to get these dads into the kind of early years space, to make sure that they see it as, you know, the only game in town, like I do. You know, if we're not building families, what are we doing? And that's why we haven't attracted money into this space, and that's what I want to do, is make sure the spotlight is on the families, make sure the spotlight is on you as health visitors, you as midwives, you as perinatal mental health teams, you as early safeguarding, you as early years providers, you as family support and third sector organisations, all get the spotlight of needing more resources, more people, and hopefully a lot of these men coming through can filter into these, because that's what we've never really been attracted to. Some of these men in, some partners in, that don't identify as male in the way I'm talking about these new dads, them into the organisations too. So you get this representation, and the conversation can carry on, keep going. So it's a start here. So yes, so that's the plan. The mum pad is on the way, which is really exciting for next year. And yeah, we can just slot those in as a provision with you guys when you're ready.
That's great. Thanks, Julian. We've got some other questions here about from Noreen here. Thanks for the overview. Great resource. Please, could you email through some key bullet points or summary of the service and engagement tips? Is that something we can do, Julian?
Absolutely. I do think there's a lot in here as well already. So if we can get that kind of messages, but I think that's a good idea. If I put some key messages, I was already thinking about this last night since we spoke. I think my focus is going to be putting together, now that the Paternal Mental Health Alliance has got their 10 ways, they've got 30 different things. We're probably going to put it in a summary document, but also Hannah will be doing a blog on it, to make sure that we've got those advertised and make sure your teams can see those, so that we've got, and maybe a little kind of dad passport for professionals, so that they've got things and hints and tips. I'm not trying to teach you to suck eggs here. I'm just saying I know. I mean, partly to becoming a parent, and hopefully a bit better co-parent, that the brains get very foggy. Life is fast paced. Memories are poor. It is about just having something as a reminder. And you know, and I remember when I worked in my probation team, obviously you're having to be on lots of things all the time. And it's just a case of going, you know, just making sure that we're doing this. Or, you know, you have your team meetings. When you have your team meetings and you get up and said, I was a little space to talk about, you know, we've been seeing dads, what I've been saying to them. You just go, why don't we try this month? And you've got a hint or tip to put into kind of team practice. Try it out. We just want to be stable in that conversation. Really.
Super. Thanks, Julian. That's great. We've got some information from Stacey, who says Dadpad information can also be backed up by the family support line, and she's given a contact number, and I think that's for Warwickshire only. Just we've got Coventry, Solihull and Warwickshire professionals here on the call today. A message from Vicky at Perinatal Mental Health Team. She says that on the website, the Dadpad, the guide is £12. Do new dads have to pay for them, or they're being given free of charge? So I did write a comment earlier to somebody's response about the Dadpad hard copies are for health visitors, because they're commissioned by Health Visiting. So we'll have a store of hard copies. The main access of the resources will be in the app. So we'll be encouraging you to ask parents to access the app, which is free. The hard copy Dadpads, if you're working with parents who are of low cognitive ability or have a learning need, or might need the Easy Read guide or a Dadpad app if they have are struggling with digital poverty, then please reach out to a health visitor and we can provide a hard copy Dadpad for those parents. But we have got limited supply of those. We would be asking parents mainly to be accessing the app.
Can I just mention about the family support line? And it's Warwickshire based locally at the moment. If that there might be an equivalent elsewhere, but that's part of that local content offer. So when you have a line that you want the dads, you want us to. If you have a dad who is in distress or wants to reach out for support, that's where the local content, you can put that link in and a bio. So we're referring actively to things that are already there that otherwise a dad might not find so easily, or isn't thinking about going straight to there because they haven't really got into the whole thinking about it. But once they've read the DAP and they look at it and go, this is what's available, they might then reach out and do it because they've got the chance in one place. It's all for them to look at. And so we'd encourage you to kind of send those links through. And anyone who the Dadpad isn't just for, it's every new dad is going to, or dad again is going to find new stuff in this kind of these resources. And I remember the 4-year gap between I forgot a lot of stuff. And so if you come across someone who wants to get hard copy, they can get them through us at the website if they want to purchase one. But otherwise, they've been given as part of the package in numbers to Nadine and the health visiting service, but the app is downloadable free for every single new dad, and you as health professionals can download it obviously to show and demonstrate, no extra cost, to make sure that you can every new dad's got free access to it. So yeah. That's that.
Just there, Julian, thanks for that. One of our peer support organisations for mothers, Sarah Hislam, she runs Parents in Mind in Coventry and Warwickshire, and she said here that they have 3 Dadpads which they loan out to clients, and they've received really positive feedback for those who have borrowed them. So that's really lovely to hear that it's being used by our parents already.
A lot over the years, I've had people ringing and calling and emailing from children's centres and spaces where they gather dads together, and they said, all we've done is taken the pad apart, we've put cards up, and we've built whole sessions around it. So it is something that's really flexible and usable. Yeah, so I'm great. It's great to hear that positive feedback.
Thanks, Julian. Elaine said, can we access the app now to look at the content in more detail?
I think there is going to be a space before the launch, isn't there? We're going to switch it on for you, and that might be the point for people to have a look at. Typically, we want to make sure that Nadine and her team and Sarah, who have commissioned this, I've signed it off before we show it out, because we don't want you having a look at it and going, well, this isn't right and that's not right, if we were going to change anything anyway. There is a you can have a look at it. I will just tell you that you can, if you type in a postcode in Cornwall, for example, you can have a look at the Cornwall one. So I know you can all Google that. So you can find something in our local area. You'll be able to have a look at the local app and have a look through. But the app itself is going to hopefully be completely kicked up as well into new features as well next year for you. But as it is, it'll be really good for you to have a look at and comment on.
Thank you so much, Julian, for coming today and for talking to us all about Dadpad. Look out on the 27th on our launch date for all of our social media information. So we'll be asking you all to share things, and just as a reminder really that Dadpad is live, and that please encourage parents to kind of access that. I'm sure parents are going to find it really useful in Coventry, Warwickshire and Solihull. And thanks everyone for coming today. I've recorded this meeting, so if you have anybody who isn't aware of Dadpad and wants more information, please direct them to myself, and I can share information with them. But yeah, that's great. Thanks everybody.
Thank you everyone. Thanks for coming.
Have a great day.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
It's really exciting now. I just want to get going.
Not long now, Nadine. Not long now.
It's so great to see so many people from different organisations here today.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Because you know that it's really going across the board. Often it's just health visiting or just midwives, but actually seeing such a diverse spread, it's really good.
You don't think when we first had that conversation a year ago that you don't realise how all your other colleagues in other services have also, they've been having the same kind of thought, is that we need to be including the dads and partners much more. And
Carmen, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, hi.
Nice
just
to see you.
And you, thank you. I think it's brilliant. I was just thinking, the information there is also very useful for mothers to be as well. So it goes, it's a really good resource. But just about the infant feeding side of things, locally, myself, Elaine, Mary, Warwick, Solihull, we haven't been consulted around the infant feeding side. So just wondering where that information came from.
Mary
Carmen, can I send you can I forward you an email where Mary has been contacted, and some of the because the infant feeding stuff comes in the generic section, and Mary's amended some of that, so I'll forward that to you, shall I?
Thank you. Yeah, because I didn't realise there was a section on there for us to have a look at. Just if Mary's looked, it's great because we work very much, the three of us together. So that would be great.
Yeah, will do. I'll send that to you now.
Thank you. I mean, I assume it's generic and it was something that was already there, and then Mary's probably just edited it slightly then.
Yeah, she just made a few little changes.
Great, thank you.
On the way to you, Carmen.
Lovely, thanks for that.
No problem.
Really good.
Nice to see you.
And you.
Yeah. See you again.
And I didn't realise. Is there anything on smoking?
Yeah, the smoking team has been consulted as well, and lots of our resources. In the end, what we did was we got them from the Family Information Service, because they hold the most up-to-date stuff. And again, it's quite onerous, isn't it, for people to kind of update that, and we know that the Family Information Service do it, so that's why we sent it to them. But it was Rachel Sproston managed to collate all of that information for us.
Right, because I mean, we do offer